Good afternoon or evening, everybody. Welcome back to another weather forecast here by Agent Weather Forecast. This is going to be more of an exciting upload for those who love the fall and winter season, as this will not be a tropical upload on Larry or anything on the actual Atlantic itself. I have not done a fall and winter related video since my fall and winter week, which is basically exactly a month ago. So I decided I think it's about time that I once again start to mention as obviously it's meteorological fall already, so why not talk about the fall season? So in this video, I'm going to be going over basically the overall models and climatology for the next few months, and basically just overall looking at where I think we will be seeing the coldest, where I think we'll be seeing the warmest fall. Just overall, just looking at the Enzo forecast and what we expect, whether we're seeing a La Nina or El Nino, or neutral, obviously, all that is going to be mentioned throughout this video. So if you guys want to find out about fall and what we're expecting, then I recommend you guys watch this video as well. I recommend subscribing to the channel, as we'll have more winter related videos and fall related videos as we continue throughout September and October. But without further ado, let's get in the video. So here's a look here at the overall latest SST forecast here as of today on the overall world, and you can kind of see we are seeing a widespread amount of cold waters centered across the equatorial Pacific, specifically across Nino 1.2. There we are seeing some really cold waters off the coast of Peru, as well as seeing some cooler waters starting to become more widespread across the Nino 3.4 region as we continue to go into deeper to the fall season and deeper, obviously, into this cooling off ever since summer. We're going to start seeing these SSTs become a little bit cooler and a lot more widespread than we saw in the summer there with the increasing neutral because of the very warm water peak. But overall, waters are starting to rapidly cool off across the overall Pacific here. We're not really seeing much above average waters that we were seeing basically exactly a month ago. If you were to go back to my videos of the fall and winter week, the waters were becoming a lot warmer across Nino 3.4, Nino 3 region. But now they are basically rapidly cooling off as we go deeper into the as we go throughout fall, obviously across the western hemisphere. So this is going to be something we're going to continue to mention as well, keep a close eye on, because if obviously this trend continues, specifically we expect it to, as obviously we're not even to the coldest months yet, that we will most likely see a La Nina develop across the 3.4 region, possibly by maybe October, and then probably be official by the late fall season. So this is the latest look here at the Enzo forecast. I believe this came out September. Let's see when this came out. This actually came out today. So this is actually our latest Enzo outlook here, which came out today. So obviously we are still under a La Nina watch. Enzo neutral conditions are present. Obviously we're seeing a widespread amount of cool SSTs across the overall equatorial Pacific. However, there are still a little bit of areas of above average. So basically are near to below average across the most of the Pacific. So the key word is near to below. So the near is showing you that there's still some areas of warmer water or even average waters, which is why it's still a neutral and not exactly a La Nina, because obviously you'd be seeing just straight up below average across most of the Pacific for a La Nina characteristic or for a La Nina summary. Enzo neutral is favored for the remainder of the summer with a 60% chance in the July throughout September season. Obviously, we are in September with a La Nina possibly emerging during the August/October season and lasting through 2021 through 2022 winter, with a 70% basically, which is increased in last time, a 70% chance during the November and January. So obviously we are looking at maybe a La Nina to form as early as next month or even later this month. Obviously, we have not really gone into the actual status yet of a La Nina, so it most likely will aim towards October specifically. So although we may not have a La Nina for most of the season, like an official La Nina, we are seeing still a potential for a chance of La Nina type characteristics throughout this weaker slash negative neutral here. So it's still gonna probably still see similar effects and impacts that you typically see in a La Nina year. However, it's going to be kind of less frequent, but we are definitely watching out for maybe an overall good end of the fall season, probably November. Looks really interesting here if this were to still be overall official La Nina by specifically all of November season or all the month of November. We could definitely see some interesting storms and play out there in November, and we've been watching out for some overall widespread snowstorms as well, just widespread Arctic oscillation forecasts that are bringing in deep Arctic blasts, and even as well watching out for the chance for a few even clippers. So November looks very interesting as well, with even the end of October to start seeing the actual fall we are really forecasting. So here's a look here at the overall SST evolution here. So the latest weekly SST departures in Nino 4 is at a negative 0.3. Nino 3.4, which is obviously what you kind of need for the actual to be actually negative 0.5 and below. That's what you need, the Nino 3.4 region to be that. That's where we get our that's actually where we get our values to determine whether they are La Nina neutral or La Nina. So here's a look here at the overall SST anomalies here for all four of these regions. So obviously Unit 3.4 is in the basically central equatorial Pacific. It's a pretty large region between 4 and 3 as you would guess. And then you see 1.1 plus 2, or I like to call 1.2, basically just outside obviously of Northwest South America. So obviously we're just kind of keeping close eye on really Nino 3.4 region. So obviously you can kind of see a pattern from basically April to, I say, probably all the way up to maybe like August. You can kind of see waters are really warming up. You can kind of see they're really cold across the fall and winter season, obviously, because it's cold. It's kind of really obvious. But as we go deeper into the winter, that's where we start to see the chance for from these La Ninas to go to neutrals, or these neutrals to go to El Ninos. It's kind of typically what you see there, increase in overall average SSTs. It got really high there across Nino 4. Obviously pretty warm as well across 3.4. And really warm actually for Nino 1 plus 2. And it was still slightly warmer than it was, or it's still obviously a rapid increase, but it wasn't as severe as it were in the other regions. But 3.4, you can kind of see it was really cold there, with around negative 1.5 to around negative 1.8 degrees below average. And then it really just straight up went up to basically very overall average. However, we are starting to see a decrease now across these regions as we are getting into the cooler season, and that's exactly what I was talking about. So now you see Nino 3.4 really going down a little bit, as well as Nino 3 and even Nino 1 plus 2, which has obviously been way above average for a while. For the past 3 months, is now going once again below average. So definitely a sign that we most likely will start to get closer to a La Nina within the next few weeks here. Again, look at the overall gradual development of these cooler waters. You can kind of see they got really warm across late August, and now they're once again starting to really cool off as we go into the cooler season. Let's now get a look here at the overall now ends of forecast probability here on whether the months are forecast for La Nina, El Nino, or neutral. So this is the latest forecast, and obviously the basically last time period we're really watching out for the overall neutral having a higher probability is going to be July, August, and September. There you can see it's around a 60-ish percent favoring a neutral, with a increasing probability of a La Nina compared to the July, or the June, July, August time period. So we are obviously starting to see that gradual increase, and see by the next time period, August, September, and October, there we have a higher probability for a La Nina actually favoring a La Nina more than a neutral. So we could very well start to see a La Nina become official probably by the end of next month, and then September, October, November, increasing over 60%, and then gradually increasing as we go in the cooler season, allowing for these SSTs to really cool off dramatically. That's going to allow for basically around 70% there for a La Nina like forecasted. Again, it's around a 70%, not exactly, but it's basically around. And then once we go past November, December, January, the probability for a La Nina decreases as the SST starts to really warm up a little bit more. However, still a high probability favoring of La Nina, basically all the way as late as March. The actual probabilities, though, so for La Nina, you can see 41% for January, or not January, sorry, for July, August, September. Then by August, September, October, 53%. Then a 62% September, October, November, and as high as a 69% by November, December, and January. So you can see they gradually increase there. Obviously, on-year probabilities don't really increase much between the time period. It's just the neutral probabilities that really decrease here, going up to a 29% there. So that's a dramatic decrease compared to what it is now at 59%. and then obviously starts to decrease their probability, but still remaining quite high up to the point where we get to March, April, and May. So we could very well see La Nina basically throughout the whole month of winter and for portions of the late season of fall. Here's a look at the overall members here and the symbols kind of predicting obviously what the future is for whether it's going to be an Enzo neutral or La Nina. So obviously there we are right now at basically a negative 0.3 uh, at the 3.4 region. So we're kind of still way below than where we were earlier in the summer, getting up to nearly a positive 0.1. So here's the overall model forecast. So obviously you want to get below a negative 0.5 to get a La Nina. This is kind of the neutral. Neutral is basically the end, and then the La Nina is going to be right here. So you can kind of see overall a lot more models compared to last month are actually forecasting it getting to La Nina or even further below negative 0.5. A few getting it to nearly negative 0 or negative 1.0. So you can see a lot of the majority actually, if around 50-50, are really either having it stay at neutral or getting really close to La Nina. So we'll probably still see similar characteristics or actually getting to a La Nina and pretty far deep into that. So overall, a lot of the models are actually getting it to that compared to last month. So let's go actually to kind of November, December, January. See a lot of them are getting to negative 0.99, negative 0.52, negative 0.70. You can see the majority negative 0.83, negative 1.91. That's really strong La Nina there. But you can kind of see the overall decrease in the values. You see a few or some are getting it to a La Nina there by August, September, October, but the majority are below negative 0.5. And then you continue to go on, and a lot more become acting to higher values. Again, seeing the same thing here, going from basically negative 0.05, negative 0.3, negative 0.4 to now getting into basically the higher values there. Negative 0.65, negative 0.83, negative 0.55, negative 1.38, negative 0.454. So you can kind of get the gist of it. That basically we're likely to get a La Nina by probably the October timeframe. So let's now get a look at the overall geopotential height anomaly here by the CFS here for the monthly forecast. So here's a look. I'm actually pretty far. I'm not sure why I was that far. So here's look the overall October time frame. So we're really watching out for. Looks like that we're gonna be seeing a rather warmer area of the United States here. Seeing a overall strong ridge likely to start forming here. Looks like a strong ridge up here. And it looks like we're missing another very strong ridge, kind of located basically up here into the Alaskan Bay region. It's going to bring in overall some pretty warm, but kind of stormy weather across portions of the Great Lakes there, portions of the overall portions there of the Dakotas. So likely to probably at this time, this obviously would kind of support maybe a chance for a few small snowstorms there across the Dakotas as well. They're going to be seeing the actual area of low with that cooler but drier air across portions there of the Alaska and British Columbia vicinity. But you can kind of overall see that we're not going to be seeing a really strong and stable Arctic Circle with that cold air or the Arctic Oscillation by October. But as we now go now into basically December, or actually November now, you're going to be seeing kind of the complete different story. It looks like it's going to be very disorganized overall Arctic Circle. Not going to be seeing too much really cold and dry air. You're going to be seeing just overall a few ridges there. You have a ridge up there, high pressure up there. It's just going to bring in overall a lot of just not going to be really too stable. We're not going to be seeing like a high and then, or we're not going to be seeing a low or a high or a high and a low. Like it's just not really, it's not really that actually stable. But as we now go into December here, you can kind of see a little bit better. It looks like we have an area there of Arctic air across portions of the just south of the Arctic Circle. And it looks like there we have a pretty strong ridge up there across the Alaska vicinity, as well as you have a kind of decent subtropical jet kind of coming in from there from the overall Pacific and the PNA. And there you see the low pressure right here with the cold and dry with the stormy weather right here across Alaska, across obviously Alaska there, and then across the south central United States. So that's December. As I go into January here, we actually have a split Arctic split Arctic basically, where you can kind of see the really cold air now going down south there across deep into the overall vicinity of the Canada vicinity. And this actually be pretty favorable for some good storms here across the Great Lakes and overall Ohio Valley. We have that obviously stormy weather coming here from the subtropical jet and the Pacific jet, and you see the really nice cold air dipping in from the jet stream here because of probably the Arctic invasion being kind of just filled with all that warm air. So it's kind of pushing that, typically what you see in a negative Arctic oscillation, pushing that cold air deep to the south. And that's going to be something very interesting here that we could very well see more of a deep, deep cold air, more likely into winter than this fall. Because obviously the CFS is very warm biased. So a lot of this is obviously going to be really inaccurate. And as we now go into February, then look at that. Really, really strong, cold, and dry Arctic Circle across Canada. And that's obviously going to be really quite favorable for some good and snowy weather down here across the eastern United States. There's really strong ridge up here. See the subtropical jet there. Look, you have that really good Rossby wave kind of just dipping like that. That's going to bring overall some good weather to the south of that Rossby wave. You see that really cold, dry air across Canada and even to the United States. There's a really strong high pressure can be seen there, bringing in that really strong cold air. And there's you're going to be seeing probably like a low pressure kind of coming off right here. And that's going to bring in some really stormy weather across the eastern United States. So obviously this is not fall, but I'm just going to go in deeper into depth into the actual next few months. Let's take a look at the European here for the next potential height for the next 10 days, I believe so. So right now, obviously, we're September 6th. So obviously, you don't really see anything too great actually happening to the actual in the Arctic Circle. There you see a really strong cold, dry air over there across the actual Arctic Circle itself. But obviously, you're not seeing that really good kind of formation where you're seeing a big blob of cold air, specifically centered and stable and stationary across the overall Arctic Circle. But as we go later on now into around mid-September, then we start to see that really good pattern there. We're seeing that wobbling and overall moving Arctic Circle of really cold and dry air. So as we want to see if it's stationary across this region, it's not going to move anywhere. It's going to probably just stay as a positive Arctic oscillation, which is that cold air really staying stationary across the poles, and that's going to allow for that warm air to basically just stay where it is and it's not going to move anywhere. And you're going to be seeing that, look at that right here. So this is going to be an example. If we go to 850 millibar temperature, there you see, like I said, that warm air is going to be stationary across the United States, while that nice cold air stays pretty much there across the Arctic Circle. And obviously, this is going to be a very good pattern here. That's going to allow for that widespread cold air just to move all over the place, which will be more frequent for a cold and Arctic blast to not only split into the United States, look at that, like that, basically, as well going to bring some cold air across Canada and as well even to Russia and Europe. So as well, let's look at the temperature here. So like I did say, you're probably going to be seeing some widespread warm air across this general vicinity here. But obviously, it's not going to be too crazy warm, but look at that. Basically, like I said, there you see it, really widespread warm air. So this is obviously, CFS is very warm biased, just like the kind of 90-plus day forecast on the national, on the climate prediction center. But as we now go basically into November, we're going to be seeing a little bit more cold air kind of popping off. So I'm going to be seeing pretty warm bias, but I'm going to be seeing a little bit of this warm air kind of really decreasing in intensity. And once we get kind of towards December, January, that's when we seeing the actual really good split Arctic Circle there, really blasting that cold air deep into the United States, or deep into Canada, sorry, and then entering the United States. And there you see that cold air kind of really coming, specifically right here though, going towards the United States. And then by February, that's going to become a lot more widespread, and it's obviously going to be pretty significant to watch out for, because that will allow a chance for some overall good storms to develop across the United States. So you're probably hearing me mention Arctic oscillation, which is basically AO. So there's positive and a negative Arctic oscillation. So typically, in a positive Arctic oscillation, you're going to be seeing that cold air staying across the poles in the Arctic Circle itself. And it's just going to be that really nice high pressure, just keeping that cold air. It's just going to stay stationary. And it's just going to allow for that kind of just ridge to bring in that really warm air. It's kind of staying across the overall area south of the Rossby wave. That's going to allow for just really warm and some stormy weather across areas south of the Rossby wave, which will be year up there to be the southeast United States. But As you now go into the positive or negative Arctic oscillation, we're seeing a basically warmer air is going to actually see warmer air across the Arctic Circle. Typically in negative Arctic oscillations, because warm air intrudes into the Arctic Circle, forcing cold air to go somewhere, that's going to allow for a split Arctic blast. That's going to allow for cold air to go both in Europe and into the United States. So you're going to be seeing some really cold air dipping deep into the United States there, specifically the eastern United States. That's going to allow for some really cold and stormy weather, possibly some good snowstorms, and that's why negative Arctic oscillation typically see El Nino type characteristics, while in a positive Arctic oscillation you kind of see La Nina type characteristics, and that's going to allow for as well some snowy weather there across the Alps, and still some kind of still warmy weather across south. Some warmy weather south there across a portion of the equatorial Atlantic, and as well for some really warm air there across the overall Arctic Circle. And obviously, a lot of you guys are probably familiar with the La Nina and El Nino characteristics, but for those who aren't, an El Nino basically where you see that subtropical jet kind of being a lot, it's basically a lot further south, basically. It's going to be bringing basically a lot of moisture, and you typically see this with a positive uh, PNA, basically. So you're going to be seeing a good amount of subtropical jet there, kind of dipping pretty far south into the Gulf of Mexico, allowing for overall a lot of moisture across this vicinity. And then you see in El Nino, like we mentioned, there's going to be really warm air, specifically centered across the overall Arctic oscillation, forcing that cold air to go somewhere. So when you see basically that really cold air kind of moving deep into the United States with that really nice moisture coming from the Gulf and the overall Central America region, that's going to allow for some good snowstorms across the southeast and eastern United States. And then obviously going to be rather warm across British Columbia, warmer across the northern United States, and pretty dry across this general vicinity because of the subtropical jet being so far south. However, La Nina is the complete opposite. You kind of see the subtropical jet basically moves a lot further south or a lot further north, and then it kind of meets with a Rossby wave, and that's going to allow for some really good stormy weather across the northern United States and Canada, with still some really widespread cold air across the Arctic Circle. And it's going to be very dry for the United States, south of the United States, because of the Rossby wave and the jet stream are moving in the subtropical jet from the Pacific are meeting so far north instead of basically meeting so far south here. So you kind of see the difference between the La Nina and El Nino. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys later.